Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, or good evening, whatever it is for you where you are. I'm so glad that you are here with me today for Meditation Mondays. This is a great time together where we experience Him in us. You know, part of what we do through what we call heart work is we meditate on the idea and the belief that Christ is in us and we are in him. And so that is how we want to start every single week, isn't it? And that's why we do what we do every Monday when we show up here at 11 o'clock Central. And for some of you, I know it's a different time. So thank you for making this important. Thank you for getting on here with me. I love that everybody seems to understand keep it on mute because that makes the meditations much easier because everybody's able to just hear what's going on inside of them. Yes, we are coming up the day after Easter, where we celebrated that He is risen, and I hope that you had some time where you were able to actually, in your own heart, celebrate that He is risen. No matter what else is going on, He is risen, which means we have hope for eternity. And so, as we kind of go into our Monday and we call ourselves the Gratefulness Gang, remember? We're always looking for those places where we can say, I can be grateful in this. I may have had the worst weekend I've ever had. I may have had the most chaotic relationship situation that I've ever had. I may have had all of these things, but today I decide to remember to be grateful that you are risen. And because you are risen, I have access to all of the resources of the kingdom realm. And so as we think about today, as I was, just praying this morning, I went to First John, and this is when it's going to be a little bit different for me. But this is where I felt like he said go back to. So here we are. We're going to do First John, and I'm going to begin in chapter 2, with verse 1. First John chapter 2, verse 1. I will read today from the Passion Translation again. First John chapter 2. It says, "You are my dear children." So we start off by recognizing that we are his children and we matter to God. We matter to him. And so you start off by just saying, because remember, everything we do, we are seeking to get in our hearts and have an actual experience. And the way to do that is by making an intentional decision of what you're going to think about. So, if nothing else, make a decision right now what you're going to think about this week, not just right now, but this week. And so, even though I'm reading from the word, you can go ahead and get in that place where you are saying, I'm experiencing you. I'm here to experience you even more. And I'm going to choose what I'm thinking about right now. For the next 27 minutes, I choose to think about you and me, Jesus, that you are in me, I am in you, and that we're going to experience this time together, and that I am your dear child. That's who I am to you. So that's where we start. That's the foundation I start on. When I feel like I matter to somebody, it is a lot easier for me to hear anything they're going to say to me, whether good or bad. If they give me a compliment, if I know that I matter to them, it means more to me. If I have somebody who I don't even know and they give me a compliment, it's still going to be nice and it's going to make me feel better, but it's nothing like when I know someone who knows me in and out says, "Hey, you did good at that." So we start out on that foundation. We are his dear children. So maybe that's the first thing you say inside. I am your child. I'm your dear child. That's how you feel about me. And John says, "And I write these things to you so that you won't sin. But if anyone does sin," and don't you love how he says, "You know what? I'm going to tell you these things so that you don't get caught up in missing the mark of the abundant life that Jesus died for us to give us." That's what the abundant, or that's what sin is it's missing the mark of the abundant life that Jesus died to give us. So he says, "I'm doing this, and I'm writing you these things so that you don't sin. But if anyone does sin," because we know it happens, We continually have and I love that the Passion says we continually. It's not it happened and it happened once and now you don't have any recourse. It's not, you're going to run out. It says we continually. That doesn't mean we sin for the fun of it. But man, when we do mess up, it feels good to know I'm a dear child. And so if anyone does sin, we continually have a forgiving Redeemer. He's our Redeemer. There's not a thing I can do that makes any of this better. Who is face to face with the Father, Jesus Christ, the righteous one. How does it feel when you think about the fact that he's saying, but if you do sin, when you sin, when you've gone astray, when you've gotten overwhelmed, when the world is louder than the voice inside of you, when all of these things are happening, remember that you have a Redeemer who is face to face with the Father. And you are a dearly loved child. It's not like Jesus is up there begging God not to kill you. They're sitting face to face and they're saying, let's remind them. Let's remind them who they are, because this is a dearly loved child. And he says he is the atoning sacrifice for our sins. Isn't that what we just celebrated? That he is the atoning sacrifice for our sins. And not only for ours, but also for the sins of the whole world. That's comforting to me to know that even the people who haven't said yes to him yet, that they too have an opportunity. They still have an opportunity because we are dearly loved children. We are invited into this relationship. And because we are in this relationship, we have a Redeemer who sits face to face with the Father, thinking about how much they love us. And he says, but here's how we can be sure that we've truly come to know God. And this is not a truly come to know God as in a salvation experience of you're going to heaven. This is God. Remember the word know in the New Testament almost always involves an experience of some kind. And that's why we do what we do on Mondays when we do these meditations is we're working to have an actual experience with God that's not just information. It's not just knowledge. It's not just stuff we've talked about. But he says, here's how we can be sure that we've truly come to know God. If we keep his commandments, and another word for commandments is instructions. If we're willing to keep his instructions, now, why would we keep his instructions? Now, remember, go back and put this into context of what John is already saying. He's saying, listen, dearly loved children, don't go and sin. Don't go do it. But when you do, if you do, remember that you have a Redeemer who's sitting face to face with our Father, and they are talking about you and reminding you and telling you who you are. And now he says, but this is how you're going to know that you've had this experience. This is how you're going to know that you have recognized that you have a Redeemer. We talk about Easter a lot. And, I think one of the things that kind of got me going this morning was thinking about the fact that I don't want to lose the awareness of what Jesus did just because I've passed Easter now. Yes, I have celebrated that he is risen, but I want to live every day in a he is risen mentality. I want to live every day in a he is risen reality where I'm saying I have access to all of the resources of the kingdom. I'm not just talking about how good it can be. I'm not just talking about how good the sweet by and by is going to be. Yes, it is. It's going to be fantastic. But I want to experience it now. And he says, you know how you're going to know that you really know God? You want to know how you're going to know that you're experiencing something? Is those instructions, they're going to become life to you. They're going to become what you say. You know what? You want to know why I don't covet what my neighbor has? Not because I'm, commanding myself, do not covet what your neighbor has, Jennifer. You have more than enough. If God never gave you another thing, it would be plenty. Yes, all of that is true. But how often do we say those things while we're still coveting? We're still wishing we had the family someone else had, or we had the life someone else had. So as we are thinking about who we are, as we're thinking about being in our hearts with him, as we're thinking about meeting with him, I start in this place where I say, you know what? I know I'm a dearly loved child. I know that. And I love that that's true about me. So go ahead and close your eyes. That's as far as we're going to go in the Word. Go ahead and close your eyes and make the decision if you haven't before now. I choose right now to experience you, Jesus. I'm going into my secret place. I'm remembering who you are, what you say about me. I'm choosing to think about that today. In these next moments, I let go of all of my thoughts, all of my feelings. I let go of what I say about things. And I instead decide in this moment, I am a dearly loved child. I am a dearly loved child. So as I go into this secret place and I see all of the things that I would see around me, the beauty of it, and I hear all of the things that would be going on as far as sounds, and I notice anything else that I might touch or taste. And again, this secret place can be a favorite vacation spot. It can be a favorite room in your house. It can be a favorite room from a home growing up. It can be anywhere that comes alive to you right now. And we use our imagination to begin the process. Because somewhere, if we'll allow our imagination to kind of just begin playing a song, then what happens is that our imagination connects to our hearts. And we don't know exactly where that is, but I choose right now to, with my imagination, I go to my secret place today. I see it. I hear it. I smell what I would smell. And I do this all with the knowledge of I'm a dearly loved child. That every time I mess up, I have a redeemer who says, I continually am willing to do this. And he sits face to face with the Father. And so as I sit in this moment, in my secret place, as a dearly loved child, I see Jesus walking toward me. And I may not see exactly what he looks like. I may not be able to describe him to anybody else. I may not even have a clear picture. But in this moment, I choose to be in this secret place, seeing Jesus coming toward me with a smile on his face. And as he gets to me, we embrace. And as he steps back, he smiles a smile that I know is his way of reminding me I am a dearly loved child who has a redeemer who sits face to face with the Father. And they love me with an everlasting love. And I see that love in his smile. And I realize that as I'm looking into Jesus's eyes, I realize something feels off in me. Something just feels disconnected in some way. And I realize it's something I'm holding on to where I have messed up. Maybe it's in the way that I've talked to someone. Maybe it's in the way that I've thought about someone. We don't always go to the place of even thinking about our thoughts leading us down a path of pain. Maybe it's a situation I handled poorly. Maybe it's even a situation where I created the pain and I'm now living and dealing with some of the consequences in it. But I look at Jesus, and part of me wants to hide this thing. It's like I want to put my hands over it and keep it away because I don't want Jesus to know that in some ways, this is who I believe I really am. Is the person that would do this, the person that would act like this, the person that would make this poor decision, the person that created the problem. And maybe you didn't even create the problem, maybe someone else did, but your response to it. I don't know what your thing is today, but as we look at Jesus, he's inviting us to let go of that thing. And I see us each of us are covering it with our hands. And I hear Jesus' invitation is, if you'll just drop your hands, if you'll just let me see it, then I will take care of it. And as I drop my hands, because I'm a dearly loved child who has a Redeemer who says, I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to criticize you. I'm not going to be disappointed in you. I see myself dropping my hands. And as I do so, Jesus gently removes the pain from that thing. He removes that thing. And I saw him taking it out of my heart. That's where we house our beliefs anyway. And we realize that when that thing is gone, there's a space that's sitting there. But Jesus does what he always does. And that is, it's an exchange. As I allow him to take this old thing, this old belief, maybe it just happened yesterday, but as I allow him to take it, he puts something back. And maybe it's love for another person, love for yourself. love for God. Maybe it's joy that even though circumstances still look the same, you have a joy that just is beyond what you can even describe. Maybe he puts back that peace that passes all understanding. Peace not as the world gives. Maybe he gives you back strength for walking out a situation. But as he gives it to you, you feel the emotions of knowing you are a dearly loved child. You are so loved. And that's why in this moment, he just makes the exchange without trying to make you feel bad or trying to make you live up to what you think you should do. He just simply removes what we've taken our hands off of. And he returns to us what we need for what we're facing. Because I'm a dearly loved child. And as he puts in that thing that I was missing, it begins to work inside of me. And if it's joy, I feel joy rising up. If it's peace, I feel peace just covering me from the top of my head to the soles of my feet. If it's love, I just feel love just flowing out of me. If it's strength, I just feel strong all of a sudden in every area. Not because I did anything right now, but because I have a redeemer. I have a redeemer who says, I don't want you to have that pain. And so I have an answer for it. And when I experience this in this moment, where he's taken that old thing and he's put in a new thing, and the new thing is already working because I feel it, because I choose to remind myself this is true. This is not just my imagination. This is not just me making something up. This is me experiencing God in a way that transforms my life. And so without that old thing, and having the new thing doing what it's supposed to do, I'm so grateful for a redeemer who sits face to face with the Father and who says, you can experience this every time you need to. You know, that thing you just took your hands off of, you may bring it back to yourself 150,000 times. You may go back to judging yourself and criticizing yourself, or judging the other person, criticizing the other person. You may make the same mistake again. But whatever, if you will come back to this place, and you'll remember this moment with your Redeemer, who says, you are my dearly loved child. And I want you to experience me and all that I am. So that thing I took my hands off of, it's not mine anymore. I may do it again. I may convince myself again that it is mine. But in this moment, I choose to remember I have a Redeemer. And anytime this thing I let go of today wants to rear its ugly head, or I want to think about it, or I want to make that decision again that way, I'm going to remind myself I have a Redeemer. I have a Redeemer who sits face to face with the Father, and I am a dearly loved child. And I choose to believe that the Word of God is true and that this is how He feels about me. I choose it. And in this moment, I rest. Just where you are, I want you to take the biggest, deepest breath you can. Believing that every time you breathe out, you are letting go of the pain of that thing you let go of today. And you're breathing in the Holy Spirit. We know He lives inside of us. I'm not trying to mess that up or say that in the wrong way, but sometimes I need a picture as if I am breathing Him in. I'm breathing in His very essence. And I'm letting that come alive inside of me. And I'm choosing to rest in that. That I have a Redeemer who calls me His dearly loved child, who says, don't sin. Don't make the decision to bring pain to yourself. But when you do, you have a Redeemer who sits face to face with the Father. And as I think about that over and over and over again, it just becomes more and more real to me, more alive. And then the way that I walk out life is I walk it as someone who loves His instructions. I don't see them as painful and hard, but I see them as a way of life. Because I have a Redeemer. He redeems me. And He sits face to face with the Father. And I want to hold on to these thoughts and these emotions of being a dearly loved child. So I'll count to 5. We'll open our eyes together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, guys, what an amazing time. What an amazing time together. And so, as always, I want to encourage you, what you saw, what you noticed, what you experienced, write it down. Write it down in a journal. It may not be much right now, but I'm going to tell you something. It will continue to grow and develop as you choose to do this. So I want to say thank you guys for being here. And I also want to remind you, practically speaking, if you get off here and you go back to thinking about that thing that you dropped your hands and said, Jesus, you can have it. If you go back to thinking about it, if you go back to meditating on it, pondering it, making it what your mind stays focused on, you're going to go right back to it. This is what we're doing in our hearts. This is not something that is so super spiritual that God is saying, yeah, think about anything you want to think about, and you're going to still experience all of me. That's why he can say, you know what the mark of a mature person is that it's somebody who says, your instructions lead me. And the way we get to that place is by thinking about what he says about us, what he says about himself. And so this week, every time you find yourself wanting to go back to that thing that you let go of today, remind yourself, wait a minute, I have a Redeemer who calls me a dearly loved child. And he says, I can let go of this right now because he took it. And so circumstances may look the same, guys. We're not doing what we're doing because we think it's going to change all the circumstances. Sometimes that has to happen from a place of you just being at peace and knowing how to walk a situation out. But I love you guys. Thank you for being here on Mondays. Thank you so much. I love getting to see you guys, getting to be a part of it with you guys. And so we'll be back here next Monday, 11 o'clock Central. Tell your friends, invite them. I appreciate you guys. You're very welcome for this morning. And I will see you again next week. And we'll do this again, see what God's doing. Bye, guys.